I just finished the game Slay the Princess. Do you ever want to have a I don't want to give any spoilers, and there's a lot of spoilers in this game. Um have you ever wanted an existential crisis, but didn't know how to get one? Did you ever want to go through some really, really twisted, messed up shit and not understand what any of it means? Have you ever wanted to feel like the entire world is a lot weirder than you thought? Have you wanted to be the monster? Have you wanted to be the hero at the same time? Yeah, this might be a game. Um, so that's the spoiler shield. Um, in about 15 seconds, I'm gonna give a my actual thoughts in the game. So at the 1 minute mark, you might want to sign off. What the fuck was that? um, you basically go through the same scenario again and again and again with variations in voices, both outside and inside of your head, in settings, and possibilities of what can and cannot happen. Basically, it seems like you've been like we don't give any spoilers. It's a weird game, but I'm not going to give any more away. But basically, essentially a meta. It's not a horror game. Yeah, there's some ghost bits and stuff, but it's not quite a horror game. It is a love story, and they give you that in the first description of the game, where they're like, "This is a horror game. Don't play it if you're going to be messed up." Um, it's also a love story. It's pretty accurate. Yeah, it's a love story. I think that's actually a fair description. Um, it's a meditation on death as well. Death, love. Basically, it's Persona 3, except a lot more twisted and a lot darker. And with more options. Yeah, it's somehow I ended up playing two games about death in a row, which is kind of funny. I guess that's what I kind of was looking for, though. But anyway, I'd give it a solid. It's a short game. It's not the longest game. I played it within Friday this whole weekend. So I played it some Friday, Saturday, and today. Finished it today. So you can get through it pretty quick. It's probably about. Well, I'm not done it yet. There's a lot more alternate universes I can go through, which I might another time. I'm gonna try some more things. Um, but I got to the true ending. I think there might be multiple true endings. Um, yeah, play the game. It's worth playing. If you have a weekend to yourself where you don't really know what to do, I'd recommend it. But the art style is amazing. The voice acting is really, really good. The storytelling is really good. Everything is really, really good. It is a graphic novel. It is a graphic novel. No, not a graphic novel. Visual novel. It is definitely a visual novel. Um, not quite as meta as Doki Doki Literature Club, but that was a really meta game. The one downside about this game is it did always feel like you're in a game, which obviously it is a game. Um, And if you're going to be so direct as to telling the player what's happening, so there are a couple hints that the game knows it's a game, but still a very, very good game. So I'd give it an A. Definitely worth playing. And also, you're not going to get frustrated. You can't really lose. You just kind of go through it. It's definitely an experience you go through. And the music's good. The art is amazing. Overall, just a very solid game. Everything's going on. Kind of wasted the whole day, to be honest. But in an hour and a half, I'm probably gonna watch some anime tonight. I've been going through Konosuba. Konosuba is just fun. Very fan servicey, but it is fun. The thing that happened today that was interesting is that like, oh, nobody's watching any of this. I go to this coffee shop every day basically, and there's Harper who's gone for a while, and it's just like I don't know. Didn't you see when somebody's eyes go water when you look at them? And I don't want to overread anything, but it's just interesting. Also, I went to church today, obviously. I felt kind of angry at church, to be honest. It's because I feel like I haven't been given the things that I wanted to get out of religion. And that sounds like, oh, you should be worshiping God. And I do. It's like God is the creator and everything. But when you start asking for like a personal relationship with God, then it's like, well, that has different parameters. So I just have a God that like is God and deserves worship because of that. That makes sense to me. Justice, they're worshiping the higher, the correct proportioning of the universe of what is greater and what is lesser. That's fair. But as soon as you get to like the personal relationship stuff, then it's like, well, if I'm not just worshiping because of this is how the universe should work or is ordered, and you're making it so that it's a relationship between two people, well, then at that point, I start wondering how that person treats me compared to other people. And I know that's kind of a heretical thing to say, but I'm not the one who's insisting that a religious relationship with God has to be personal. I'm not the one that's coming from. And it seems like it is. One can argue that that's a very, very big stretch to make. Is that God of the universe friends with people? Actually, no, I actually don't even think that that's very biblical. To be honest, like yeah, God has relationships with certain people, cool, but it's not like universal or anything, right? Um, Especially when you look at like how different things have turned out in my life. I think some things turned out quite well. Just the things that I didn't care about turned out well, which is weird. Like, oh, I'm financially successful. I don't care. Um, I guess I would care if I had less, but I don't care as I am now. And yeah, I have close to my parents and have good connections. Um, Maybe there's always one more. There's also that too. There's also the pretty good cost. There's a pretty good probability that if I had gotten married and had kids, I'd probably be divorced by now. Pretty good probability of that, especially after some people downstairs are arguing all day. You're like, anyway, I shouldn't say anything more about that. But I am grateful for what I have. I just wish I was a better person. Um, it's funny. So Persona 3, one of the main themes is that the theme it gets to is that we are our connections with other people. That other connections to other people give life meaning. But then those connections die because you get separated or somebody dies. And that's good. it doesn't explain why death is necessary. Now, the argument that's made in Sway the Princess is that death allows change. It's not quite an argument. It's kind of like this is an argument from one of the characters. And that if nothing changed, then nothing would ever be connected because nothing would change from being connected, disconnected to connected. Yada, yada, yada. And I think we actually have a disagreement with the Christian worldview. The Christian worldview says there are connections that don't end. That there is at least one connection that doesn't, and that's your connection with God. But in which case, why does the God connection remain and the other connections die? Maybe the other connections don't die? Like maybe in some cosmic sense, the connections you make on Earth continue beyond. But then that cuts away against the idea that God can like what is heaven, right? What is heaven? Is it connection to God? God overwhelms everything else, or is heaven all of your connections that you make? It's a very very different conclusion you can come up with. It's like the mystical versus the interpersonal. It's a very different answer. Like, do you go straight up to God or do you go across other people? I think Brother James actually put it pretty well. He said that most people make their connections with other people at the same plane, like horizontally. But he said he believed that there are mystics who go straight to God, but who are also more vulnerable to drug addiction, spiraling, all that kind of stuff. So that you should wish to be more horizontally oriented, not vertically oriented. Which is really weird. So do you make a personal connection directly with God, or do you just make your connection with the people in your realm? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Or there might not be a God. It's possible too. But then we've observed humanity has observed him. I feel like whether or not there is a God, humans are evolved to believe in one. And that whether or not we say there is a God or isn't there a God, usually that statement there isn't a God or there's one isn't really connected to what the actual beliefs are. So somebody says, I believe in God. Well, you're evolved to. Somebody says, I don't believe in God. It's like, you're really passionate about this not being a God question for somebody who doesn't think there is one. No, I do think there's like a small minority of people who don't have any belief system just ingrained in them. I think that there might be a 1 or 2% of the population that doesn't have that instinctive religious instinct. But most people have one, whether or not they say they believe in one. And I also think different people have different religious beliefs. Like there's the top line Christianity, pagan, Jewish, Muslim, all that kind of stuff question. But is that the religion that guides somebody's life? Like if an ideology is the worldview that people use to interpret the world, well, is their ideology really something that we think about once a week on Sundays or Fridays or Saturdays, whatever? I don't know. I really think there are more beliefs. Everybody's a matrix of different overlapping beliefs. Maybe you go on a date with a girl, you bang her, and then you say, "Oh, well, this is good." Well, what religion are you practicing? You're not practicing your mainline religion because that's probably going to be found on that. It might be paganism, might be worship of the other. Might be following social controls. I don't know. But okay, let's say you're eating dinner. You eating dinner according with anything? No, you're probably eating dinner with regards to some belief system about food. Is it fuel efficiency? Or is it taste experience? So like I'm reading that book, still reading that book by Malcolm Susan and Simone Collins about What is your optimal function? I don't know if it's quite optimal function that we all have. I think we all do have pure beliefs, but they're a lot more different from just having thoughts about that are defined in some mainline religion. Now that is part of us, but it's not all of it. Anyway, I'm babbling. Play Sway the Princess. It's a very good game. I give it a 9.3 out of 10. I for the style of game, I don't know if it could really go higher. And it is kind of rambling in how it talks about death and the conclusions that it comes up with, but that's part of the game. Anyway, good game. Buy it, play it. It's good. See ya.